Hello everyone, my name is Flavio Pereira. I'm part of the technical enablement at Oracle Cloud Infrastructure. And this is the portion 3 of the data migration. We're talking about data transfer services and storage gateway. So on this part, we're going to cover the online transport. We're going to cover pretty much the storage gateway side. Okay. So for online transport, there's a couple ways you can do in order to move data from your on-premises environment to the cloud. When we're talking about online transport, it relies over to internet connectivity or bandwidth that you might have on your on-premises environment to allow you connection from your location to the cloud. So there's 3 options you can use. You can use VPN over internet, right? You have a VPN connectivity from your on-premises to OCI, and then you can send data through that VPN connection. You can also use Fast Connect, which is allow you to give a dedicated link from your location to OCI. It goes to the high speed. You can get from 1 gigabit per second all the way to 10 gigabits per second on a network. Another option to use is storage gateway. So a storage gateway is considered online transport because a storage gateway is going to use your internet connectivity to connect your on-premises environment to an object storage and then allow you to copy data from your on-premises environment to that storage gateway and then synchronize the data to the object storage in OCI. So what exactly is storage gateway? We're going to cover the storage gateway here. So a storage gateway is an appliance that you can install in your on-premises environment and then have your applications connecting to that appliance and then sending data over to NFS file system. Okay, so this appliance is a virtual machine. You can install that on your any virtual machine you might have inside of your on-premises environment. This is a Docker container. You can easily install that on top of Linux environment and then bring that up on your environment. So then the storage gateway will have connectivity to the object storage, which is the OCI object storage that's up and running on your account. So that makes things easier to copy it over. So if your application is copying the data inside of the object storage through NFS v4, the storage gateway will recognize when the data landed on the specific mounting point, and then we'll start copying the data from that mount point to the object storage. So what's the main use case for the storage gateway? So the main use cases, the 2 of them is the hybrid cloud. You have on-premises application using the storage and OCI, and there's a few hybrid environments that we can walk through and cover some of those details here. Another one is one-time data migration. So if you just need to do migration of the data from your on-premises to OCI, that data you can take that over internet connectivity. So you might want to use storage gateway just to start copying the data to that NFS mounting point and then allow that to starting synchronized over to the OCI object storage. Okay, so those are the 2 main use cases, but as you can see on the slide, there's other things we're going to talk to, like cloud tiering, backups, archives. So I'm going to go over some of those. So this is an option that you can use for hybrid cloud, what we call tiering, using Cloud Sync feature. So that's going to give you the ability to connect to any local NAS that you have on your on-premises environment. And Cloud Sync feature will keep monitoring and watching any changes on that specific file system or that specific folder. And then storage gateway will recognize that and start copying the data from your NAS to the storage gateway. And then from there, it's going to send that over to the object storage. So it's a really cool feature if you have multiple NAS storages around your on-premises environment, or if there is a machine where you want to, every time some application copy the data to that specific file system, you want the Cloud Sync detect that and then start copying the data from that NAS to the storage gateway, and then later on that's going to be copied over to the object storage. So you can run multiple sync jobs in parallel. You can have multiple sync jobs watching the storage, your NAS, and then leverage that feature to start copying the data to OCI. Another option is using for content repositories. So you can just have the storage gateway on your own site, and then all the data that's actually put it on the storage gateway, we send it over to the object storage, and then from there you can access using pre-authenticated URL for all those files. So if you're just looking for host some files inside of your on-premises environment, like files or even reports or images that you want to create as a content repository, that's a great use case to use object storage and storage gateway for. Another one is backup copies. So traditionally, like on-premises environment, they use this 3-2-1 strategy for backups, right? What exactly that is? So at least 3 copies of the data, that's one of the requirements. And then you have to use 2 types of different storage, and at least 1 copy has to be put it offsite of your location. So you can use cloud environment for that. You have 3 copies, you can have 1 copy on your on-premises environment, and 2 of the copies can be placed on the cloud environment. And use 2 different type of storage. So cloud storage or object storage or archive storage counts as a different type of storage for that. And then one of the copy will be placed offsite. You can even put it on different regions inside of OCI. So you might have copies across regions on your cloud environment. Okay, so 3.321 strategies. Use tapes vaulted on premises, which is sometimes cheap, but actually keep the vaulted remotely. That's where the cost will go up. So if you use cloud storage for that, it's cheap. That's a better way to keep your data secure. There's all the encryption for the object storage too, the REST encryption that we provide to you. So you have all that data, your backups, and all the data you put in over there on a security way. Another option is using for code disaster recovery. So if you have a standby, you might want to create a standby environment in a cloud, in OCI in this case. And then if there is something wrong, the storage gateway is copying your data from your on-premises to the object storage, and then you can easily access that data from the object storage to recreate your environment in a cloud environment. Right? So it's easy to use that for code disaster recovery. So here's some of the options for tuning and pinning for frequently used data. So as you know, Storage Gateway will synchronize the data from the Storage Gateway appliance all the way to OCI object storage. So if your application or user is accessing files, need to retrieve some of the file got retrieved from the OCI object storage to the Storage Gateway. If this file is like frequently retrieved type of data, Storage Gateway will recognize that and cache that file locally. So that way you don't have to always request the data from the object storage to be placed in the Storage Gateway to give you access to your application. So that's going to have a cache locally inside of the Storage Gateway. And you can also do some ping on some files. So if you have a file that you know your application will access every time, is going to be frequently accessed by applications and users, you can ping those files, and then they'll have a copy, always going to have a copy locally inside of the Storage Gateway. So the application doesn't have to retrieve the data from the OCI object storage to access that, right? So those are really cool options for access. Will be sending over to the cloud, and then if your application needs to retrieve and get access to those files, so you don't have to wait traverse all the bandwidth internet connectivity to get access to those files, as you have a copy locally inside of the Storage Gateway. For Storage Gateway performance, and that's one thing you need to understand. So Storage Gateway, it's gonna use your internet connectivity, right? It depends on your bandwidth. Then I can sustain some of the uploads and downloads speed here. So as you can see on this slide, we have a 10 gigabits per second on the Fast Connect, And then if you have files that range from 10 gigabytes to 50 gigabytes, the upload speed is going to be from 450 to 500 megabytes per second, and download is going to be 700 to 750 megabytes per second. So you have to understand that it depends on your internet connectivity, how you connect it from your on-premises to OCI, and then the size of the file is really important to you. So storage gateway will perform better if you have bigger files than actually putting a lot of small files inside of the storage. So here's some of the limits on the storage gateway resources. You have to understand that the storage gateway doesn't exceed 10 file systems per storage gateway. So if you need more than 10, the recommendation is to spin up another storage gateway, a second storage gateway, to bypass this limit. Another one is the local storage for file system cache, which is important to understand as you're going to cache some of the files locally on the storage gateway. We recommend that you have 500 gigabytes on the space for your storage gateway installation, then to support the file system cache. The other one is the limit of number for files that you're going to put on the cache. So the amount is 20,000. So we can have 20,000 files on the cache. So just keep aware of that number as well. And of course, to improve all the performance, like I mentioned in the slide before, try to compress the files, zip the files. Even if that's small, just combine them, zip them, so it'll be better. You reduce the number of objects on the namespace. So it's easy for storage gateway to synchronize data from the storage gateway to the object storage. Here's some of the storage gateway FAQ questions, and some of the common questions that customers will ask when they're using storage gateway. And one of the common questions is if you can use storage gateway as a general purpose network attached storage server, and the answer is no. Right? This is not meant to be a NAS inside of your environment. It's actually just to synchronize the data from your NAS environment to a storage gateway and then send that over to the object storage. Right? It's not meant to be a NAS storage server per se. And how much does storage gateway cost? So it's free with the OCI subscription. So if you have an OCI subscription, storage gateway is free. You can just download the Docker file, install that on the Linux machine, and then bring it up the storage gateway as well. Another question is, do I need to use Object Storage REST APIs to use the storage gateway? No, you don't have to use that. Storage gateway will perform all the tasks for you behind the scenes, so all you have to understand is how you mount the storage gateway as an NFS file system, and then all the communication from storage gateway to object storage will be executed to the REST API, but the storage gateway will translate that for you. Okay, there's more information on FAQ. If you click on the link, you're gonna find all the information there. All right, so let me do a quick storage gateway demo and show you how you can create a file system on the storage gateway, map to an OCI storage bucket, and then how you can map to your VM. All right, so this is my OCI account. I'm logged in my OCI, and then I have a storage gateway installed in my OCI account that's going to copy files from my virtual machines to the storage gateway and then sending that over to the OCI object storage. So if you go on the compute instances, I do have a VM, which is an Oracle Linux VM. And then after I installed the Oracle Linux, I downloaded the Docker container for a storage gateway, and then I installed the storage gateway here on that VM. Okay, so once you go to the command line, install the storage gateway using the Docker container, then you'll be able to access a web page, and that web page you're going to walk through to set up the storage gateway to talk to your object storage. So I have that configured here. I set up I set up the storage gateway web page, and then I'm accessing through a local host here on this port. And then I'm going to log with my username and password, which is the admin. And then once I do, this is the home page of the storage gateway. Okay. So I do have 2 file systems that I created here already. I have the FS data and the sync one. But if you want to create a new file system, all you have to do is click Create File System, and you're going to give it a name for the file system. For example, test FS, and you can select if you wanted that file system to be connected to a standard OCI object storage or archive OCI object storage. So it depends on your use case or what you're trying to achieve here. So if you want to just archive data, you can connect that to the archive bucket. If you want to do just a standard object storage, you can select the first one. Then you have to enter the API ending point of the OCI object storage. If you don't know, that's fine. If you click here on API ending points, that's going to redirect you to the documentation of the object storage, and then going to provide you the storage gateway API ending point right here. So it depends on your region, and then you can get the region you want to create your object storage, and then use one of those API endpoints there. Okay. So once you do it, let's just pick one here. For example, let's do the Phoenix one. Just gonna copy that back here. Once I enter the API endpoint, it's going to ask me to enter the compartment OCID, the tenancy OCID, the user OCID, the public key's fingerprint, and the private key. So this is actually how the storage gateway will authenticate to your account, right? You're going to specify the compartment where the OCI bucket will be created. Then the tenancy OCID, the user OCID, they'll make the authentication. And then you have to create the fingerprint here, provide the public fingerprint here on that option. That's going to come up with the private key that you're going to generate as well. So if you create a private key already for your dynamic group or for your OCI CLI, that's exactly the same steps that you're going to use here. Okay. So once you do that, there's a couple of advanced options for file system configuration. So you can define like who can actually access the NFS mounting point. So you might have, I want to just specific to a specific subnet address, or I'm gonna give access to everyone. Some of the export options as well, concurrent uploads and sync policy. So this is actually a couple things you can do to make the performance a little bit better on the storage gateway as well. Okay. So once you have that, you save, and once you save, then is gonna start creating the file system. So once you do that, what's gonna happen is I'm gonna just go back here to my FS data. You're gonna have information like that, where you have the mount command that you can use to start mounting the NFS file system on your local environment. Okay. So let's just show that real quick how that works. So if I have here my terminal, and I have a dev instance that I'm up and running here, and on that dev instance I have a mounting point called SGW data. So there's no files here, right? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to mount. Let's just get the command here real quick. Yeah, so I'm going to mount the NFS file system. So 172.16.2.11 is the IP address of my storage gateway. Okay, and I do have the FS data, right? This is the file system name that I created here on storage gateway, and this is the mount point that I want to use. So SGW data. Okay, so before I do the mount, let me just go back here to the OCI account and show you the object storage. So there's an object storage associated to this FS data that I created on that I created on the storage gateway, which is that bucket here. And then you can see that bucket, there's one just file saying the version of my storage gateway, right? So this bucket is associated to the storage gateway. So every file I copied over will show up here on the bucket. So let's do a quick test. Let's just mount this here. Then now if I go to the SDW data, so if I create a file, just say touch Flavio text, and then we're going to see if that file will show up here in a minute. So let's just go back here in the metrics, just go back to the objects, and there you go. So you can see we already synchronized the file from the storage gateway to my object storage. So I can see the file here. Of course, this is a small file, right? There's nothing on it. But once we start copying directories or zip files over to the mount point, all the data will start synchronized over there. So if you go back to the storage gateway page, you can see some activity information. So that will show you the activity of synchronized files here. As it's just a new one, I don't have any complete uploads, just kind of refreshing, getting the data from there. You can change some of the settings as well, so after the fact. So if you want to do some of the change the compartment or change the object storage, you can do that too. So the only thing you have to do, you have to disconnect the file, and then there's options to change that after you disconnect. Okay. Yeah, so this is how the storage gateway works, pretty straightforward. So if you want to use the Cloud Sync option, which is synchronize the data from a specific NAS, and then once that happens, you start copying data over to the OCI object storage. On the Cloud Sync, you can start creating the job, and then once you do it, you provide the source and the target path, right? So where exactly is the source and the target, and then we'll storage gateway will monitor that, and then we'll start synchronize data from one location to another one. Okay. Yeah. So this is a quick demo of how a storage gateway works, and I hope that helps you to actually start moving the data from your location to OCI. This is one of the options to use to start moving our data. Okay. Yeah. Thanks for watching.